General Protocol Spaces, banking on freedom.
All right. Yeah, well, let's go ahead and get started. So this is General Bull 14 of N. We're going to have a chat with Jett as him to end up doing all kinds of things in the BCH ecosystem, but he does it pretty quietly. And yeah, I think we'll have a chat with him, see how things are going, see if we can get him to talk about what I really want to hear about is his AI stuff that he's working on, but I'm not sure if he can talk about it. But then, of course, also about content production and BCH development and building in general. Looking forward to talking to them. In the meantime, what are we going to talk about? Because the podcast just finished their epic. Like, how long was it? I think Jimmy's here, but it was like 2 hours. Just
Yeah, it was long.
that they were on, and Jett's been like working on that the whole time. I feel bad for him. I didn't realize the timing was this close on it. Yeah, man, things going crazy in BCH space and crypto space, BTC space, and absolute mess. As Jeremy says it well, shambles. Things are crazy over there, and it's really hard not to just
Yeah.
at the least spectate. It's really hard not to even just jump right in there and stir shit. So I don't know.
Right. So here's something we can discuss if we want to. So at the risk of kind of coming off as a troll, I went to the GitHub repo of covenants.info and suggested they added the Bitcoin Cash native introspection opcodes as an alternative way to get covenants on BTC.
Whose repo is that? Is that the PolyD or is that Unsettler? Or whose repo is that?
Oh, I have no idea. I just know that covenants.info contains a list of various ways, and they're kind of infighting about like which way are we gonna use to get covenants on Bitcoin. And I figured,
yeah,
what's the worst that can happen? I mean, if they actually do take on the BCH opcodes for the native introspection, they get a bunch of free work done. They have verification that the opcodes are working in the wild and they're securing real money at scale, or some scale at least. And they get free documentation, they get unit tests, they get interchain compatibility, and we also like get the ability to run our code in more than one place. That ever becomes interesting. No, of course, the chances for them of doing it is practically zero. I don't delude myself into thinking they'll do anything other than mock me and close the issue. But I figured if they really are looking at all the ways to get covenants, then our native introspection covenants should actually be considered a fairly good bet, right?
Well, of course, it's a good bet. They're great. They're very well documented, better than the typical BIP than the BIPs. But no, I mean that's always the thing where as we discussed many times, maybe not here very much because we don't talk about BTC very much, but the issue is not just the technical one, or it's primarily not a technical one, right? Because although BCH exists, people think it exists because of block size. That was, as they say, only the proximal cause, right? The real cause was that there was 4 years of, being flabbergasted at the people in charge of core and the wild and irresponsible decisions that they were making about BTC and convincing people of. And so even if something like a block sizing happens, native introspection gets adopted or 64-bit integers get adopted, that really still doesn't attack the root issue, which is that BTC is in some way compromised. And even if something like happens, I don't expect it to stay that way. But yeah, probably very little chance of any of that stuff happening. They're already kicking those guys out socially, right? They're already kind of casts at this point. They're nerds, technical nerds, and they've just been kicked out practically.
Yeah. So
not that being a nerd is bad, but just they don't understand what game they're playing, and they've already lost.
Yes. You said somewhere bringing a laptop to a gunfight, something like that.
Bring a laptop to a gunfight.
Yeah.
That's
So
what they're doing. They didn't learn.
yeah. So Jett seems to be.
Hey, Jett.
Wow. Can we get a mic check?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
Yo, you were thinking you want for Christmas is to do an epic marathon production of a social media podcast and then jump right on to surely we're open, right?
Yeah, so food's still cooking. So I'll be muting in between to take little bites, but I'm here.
Perfectly fine with
Nice.
me.
How did the show go?
Good.
Was it actually 2 hours or like over 2 hours? How long was it?
That was closer to 2.5, I think.
Wow.
But so the one issue that I'm like repeatedly having now is just how horrible NVIDIA drivers are on Linux.
What for? You mean for like the production stuff or your AI stuff?
For the production stuff.
For
So I
games.
have no. For like even just screen recording. So I run Wayland, which I know is already like a little sketchy to do with NVIDIA stuff, but then I purposefully use my GPU to render OBS and Zoom and a bunch of different things. And my GPU is perfectly capable of handling those things. It never goes above like 60% of its power capability. I haven't seen it go above, I think, 75% for encoding and decoding and all that. But I'll always get really weird behavior like color shifting or weird flickering, or even just things like screen recording is a pain in the ass sometimes.
But you put Wayland and NVIDIA in the same sentence. That's not supposed to happen.
Well, so if we had this conversation last year, I would completely agree with you. But I've been using Wayland for 8 months now, and aside from when they do driver updates, where I'll have a broken laptop for like a week, it works pretty well.
Yeah. I didn't used to use Wayland much either. I've been holding off for as long as I possibly could, but when I switched over to running on Steam Deck only, I actually switched to almost Wayland only, and I'm looking forward to the next KD Plasma upgrade, in which I get to drop X entirely.
Yeah. Well, the reason that I switched was because fractional scaling on X was just dog shit. So
yeah, I switched recently too, and I assumed that I got a smooth experience because I was on AMD. But yeah, glad to hear that it's doing okay on NVIDIA side too. I've always been disturbed a bit in X that everyone can read everything, and there's something not right with that.
yeah, so that's like the only real problem that I think I have now. And aside from, I need to find designers and animators and stuff that I can consistently hire for Bitcoin Cash, because I'd like to have a bunch of assets for the podcast that I just can't make myself. But yeah, securing people to hire for that is probably, I think, more difficult than just putting the time in to figure out how to do it. I just don't have the time.
So, yeah, okay, so that's an interesting point. Like you have trouble finding talent to do the work for you. Have you looked into tried using AI to produce that content instead?
Not yet.
So,
although that is a good point.
yeah, so depending what kind of content you want, it can be various difficulties to actually achieve the result you're looking for. But I've found videos explaining how to do a lot of different things that consist of like user interface element, like frames and borders and backgrounds and things like that, as well as making like consistent iconography. And AI has gotten really, really good the last handful of years at making graphical content.
Okay. I will say, just from me being on the space and mentioning that, I now have 2 messages. So thank you to the people who reached out.
Me,
one has
for BCH, like I'll take BCH.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
The one hesitation I have about just using AI stuff is I would like to have a little control, especially over like being able to get the alpha layer in the output. And I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time scouring to find, the right AI solution that gives me the technical stuff that I like at the end of it too. I feel like it's just easier. I mean, and now I'm running in circles. There's some aspects where it's easier to talk to a human because I can be like, these are the requirements. If you don't fill that, you're shit out of luck. And an AI can just piss you off
When you're
repeatedly
asking,
for
you're like,
hours.
hey, I want a person standing next to a dog. It's like, here you go. Here's a person standing next to a dog, and it's like a fucking boat and a house. And you're like, wait, no, it's not. That's not what it is.
Yeah. So
Nice. So you've come a long way, Jett, on everything. That's what I was saying before you showed up, right? Like programming. Now you're doing like the content production. You're doing AI stuff. You do all kinds of different things. Like, what is it's taking your time these days? What's the percent on this?
Oh, well, okay. So my day job has like swallowed up most of my life. I'm not going to lie.
Okay. I see.
But my day job does allow me to do kind of cool things because I'm only like the past 3.5 months, I've only been working with LLMs, and now I'm dealing with T5 translation models and speech to text models, and being able to do stuff that I can like know for certain is on the bleeding edge of where this thing is at right now. That's so cool and fulfilling to me. I do wish I could get paid more, but we'll see how that works out in a couple of years.
Well, it's something where no matter what you do, you're working on stuff that is applicable skill knowledge. So that's super valuable no matter what it is, I think, at this point.
And having the opportunity to be able to see through some of the bullshit, like every post that I've ever read on LinkedIn talking about LLMs, and like it's written by people who don't know what an LLM even is.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice to be like, the I'm not going to talk too much shit, but like the owner of Anthropic, for example, I don't understand how he's in that position.
That's one of the things, once you actually become an expert at something, and then you take a look around and you're like, wait a minute, nobody knows what they're talking about actually in the real world, right?
Yeah.
It's like one of the very useful tools for people like me who have what do you call it, imposter syndrome, right? So you just grow up feeling all your life like other people are just better than me, they're better. And then you kind of get enough skill at one thing to realize like, wait a minute, a lot of people full of shit, actually. I'm not doing that bad.
The incentives are also kind of weird, right? Like OpenAI is 800 plus employees. And I assume a lot of their, like, a lot of the development cycle for them must be, assigning ownership to certain things to make sure anything even gets done. Like, yeah, okay. This is going to get too far in the weeds, so I won't deal with it and talk about it too much. But they're way more employees.
He's talking about how they don't accept mediocrity and small teams and stuff like that. But you're saying it doesn't sound like that reflects reality necessarily.
No. I think those teams are overbloated, and they try to look more busy than they actually are to get VC funding and to drive this hype. And it's just a lot of lies and bullshit.
Wow. So there's a lot of heavy duty stuff with LLMs and transformers and everything that's out there that's actually been built and developed, but there's also a thick layer of bullshit on top of it.
Yeah, I'm so much more impressed by the open source resources that I can get for LLM stuff than the offerings that we can buy as a company. like even the infrastructure that some of these companies offer. It's just like, I don't understand why no one has okay, so something as simple as sequential chains of models, right? So you could have a speech to text that goes to a translation or language detector and then goes to whatever LLM, like the Mistral 7 by B mixture of experts thing. That's the most impressive thing that I've ever seen as far as the LLM stuff has gone so far. And it's all just released like as true open source.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. It's all pretty efficient as well, right? Like not just amazing, but it's efficient as well. Huh. Okay. What about so I know you I mean, it sounds like you're really not overwhelmed, but you're like you said, absorbed by the day job AI stuff you're working on. But have you been doing much BCH development, or is that all kind of on hold while you've been busy?
I think I've had a couple of ideas, but I haven't really put any real work in.
I see. Like, are these good ideas, like quotes, or actual good ideas, or?
Hard to say. Like, because right now, because I'm so kind of consumed by the AI stuff, I've talked about this on the podcast too. I'm just trying to find ways that I can create some kind of interface for people to deal with an LLM, but get information from the blockchain. And then I'm just like in this kind of battle between what the hell do you even need the LLM for here? Like, what can we do that's novel with AI in this, just as like a user interface that we can't do with like the basic Telegram bots.
Well, Telegram bot. Okay. All right. We're gonna get into product design here. Let's go.
Yeah. So, isn't it much easier to do like voice command driven applications using those kind of tools than it is trying to do some linear step-by-step coding?
Maybe. I have not. So as far as the AI stuff has gone, I haven't dealt with any of the speech to text or sequence to sequence models really at all.
Let me see if I can chain some LLM workloads in a row that might give a productive, useful output for me. So first I'll explain a problem, right? So I'm currently trying to organize a conference, and I need a place for us to host a conference that accept Bitcoin Cash for payment. And I've done the manual work to solve all this, so it's not a problem for me right now, but it was just some weeks ago. Now, if you'd have an LLM that is able to distill data, right, take things from data from a blockchain and take data from something like OpenStreetMap or CoinMap or Bitcoin.com's map or whatever, then using like only human language, I could ask something like, can you send a quote for a room at a hotel in this specific city that takes Bitcoin Cash? And it could go and do some of those things separately, like it figure out like what is the list of merchant that takes Bitcoin Cash in that city as one workload, and then it like sends a request to whatever contact information is for that hotel, and at some point later I'll just get an email with a quote. Could it do something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of what you're talking about is exactly what I'm trying to set.
In a place where somebody can just say absolutely. That's bizarre. That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I've been trying to build at work, right? So the idea is we have this LLM, and when you make a call to it, you can say, here are the tools that you have available to you. Now, the user doesn't get to know really the implementation details of these tools. They just know this is how you get data from X. And maybe you can give it like a certain format that like if you only want JSON output or something like that. But this use case is what I did in development. So I was planning a trip to Montreal, and I needed it to search flights and also Airbnbs and find me the cheapest one in a certain location. And I have a little video demo I can privately share with some of you if you ask me nicely.
Please.
Yeah, I'd happily ask you nicely. Can I please see that at some point?
Nice.
Yeah.
What about so the thing? I don't know. So when I think about all the AI stuff, of course, there's so many amazing things going on. But then I also think about it from the angle of where we're going with all this, and the privacy aspects, and the ownership, and like you said, the open source aspect, and the surveillance, and who has control, and all that stuff. And I love seeing all the open source stuff. But the prediction I made, I don't know when it was, a while back, was that sooner or later, if not already, all compute, especially GPUs and anything that's useful for AIs, is going to be under KYC, effectively KYC, AML, whatever it is, just some kind of protection regime where every cycle used for AI stuff is going to be, to the greatest degree possible, under surveillance. Do you think that's already kind of there, or what kind of resources are you guys using? Is it all like local stuff, or you're doing everything on the cloud, or what do you see on that angle with being able to stay independent with what you work on? You know, as Bitcoin Cash always says, not your cycles, not your brain, something like that. Not GPU, not your brain.
Can I jump in right before Jett answer this, because I actually have something to share with regards to this. So I thought things were going in that direction too, and that it would take a while, and then eventually compute would be so cheap that it would be pointless to try to prevent people from having access to it, because everyone would have access to the technical aspects to it. And I grabbed this Mistral 7, I think it was A, or maybe it was B, one of those that came out some months ago, and I ran it on my Steam Deck. And while it was fairly slow because it wasn't accelerated in any way, the results it gave me back were significantly less impeded by politics. And that was very refreshing to see. And so when we're talking about KYC or access in this context, my viewpoint is that, yeah, sure, like OpenAI or ChatGPT might be behind KYC or whatever, but the actually meaningfully really good tooling, the one that doesn't, try to prevent you from learning or doesn't try to lie to you about things that it should know better about, it's actually going to be the stuff that runs on like commodity hardware, where it's so trivial that your watch on your wrist can do it in the future.
Great. I really hope you're right. I hope it doesn't wrap. You think the same? You think we're gonna be all right? We're gonna make it, Jett?
Well, so you bring up an interesting point that I hadn't really considered, and that's the KYCing GPU cycles. That's kind of like, I'm wondering if we know that Intel motherboards, for example, have a backdoor that is like public information in it, or that's public information, then I don't see what would stop them from also tracking your GPU and having a backdoor in there. And then maybe if you try to train a model that's too big without permission, they shut you down. Like,
exactly, this kind of thing. Or to train a model that's larger than this, you have to have a license. Or like the UK a while back was, I don't know who it was pushing it, but was someone trying to push a system. I'm sure I'll get it wrong. Jeremy could probably correct me. I'm sure he could. But where basically you'd have a license to write encryption, or a license to software dealing with encryption, or something like that. Basically trying to wrap it up so that even if you can technically do things, you're going to be falling inside the law as soon as you start doing things with a license or some kind of permission or whatever it is. So I don't know. It feels like that's something, because there's so much power, and the AI has just so much power.
Yeah, I will say though, because I know that the US, for example, has also pushed this Like if you're trying to train a foundational model that's over, I think 200 billion parameters, you've got to apply for some bullshit. But with this mixture of experts things that the Mistral 7x8b model proved is like, we don't need these like monolithic LLMs. You just need to be able to determine which LLM is best fit for the user input. Because the fine tuning, I think, is less resource cost at the time of inference, easier to just run on commodity hardware. Like if you can, my question I guess is, would you rather have a 400 billion parameter model that is okay at everything, or a 3 billion parameter model that can do exactly what you're looking for it to accomplish?
Well, you know what they say about specialization.
Well, so my viewpoint is that I'm looking forward to the fun future of making a non-flesh child. You know, have an LLM in a hardware that's mine, that I can guide how it goes through life, teach it whatever I know about stuff, and then have that as kind of a legacy moving on. That'd be an interesting situation.
I think you could get something close to that now.
To come with me. I'm sure people are already doing that, right? Absolutely, they have to be.
Yeah.
Sci-fi calls to the present. It's here.
I am interested. I saw something, I think it was yesterday, that was comparing LLMs to just brain power. And I didn't realize that brains didn't use a whole lot of wattage, I guess, right? So
oh my
I'm more interested in when
AI
these
stuff is incredibly inefficient compared to biological networks.
Yeah, brains might not take up much wattage, and they might become fairly good at a few things, but they're also really terrible at most of the things they could engage with. I mean, pick a random subject on this world, like pick one random human, and then ask it to do like every single task that mankind ever has done, and see how well it performs in each task. It's going to be abysmal at 99.9% of those tasks, because it isn't optimized for any of those specific things. But LLMs, like if you make really big models, they can be really good at really many things, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Well, it does feel like it's just one
big evolution call out and challenging that, Jonathan. See what reproduces and what continues to exist. We're gonna find out. But I think it's just gonna end up being layers, right? It's not like a competition necessarily. Just like we incorporated law of life to where we are. We're not just a completely separate thing from everything that came before us. So it's all gonna get mixed up.
It does feel like this is just an easier way to have, like, I think the internet is kind of like the shared external brain, and it feels like an LLM is just a condensed version of that, where the interface to it is a whole lot more natural to us.
Well, I mean, we've been having basically external brains since we first started using, tying knots on a rope to remember things. That was like what, 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago. I don't remember. But yeah, that thing was not new, and LLMs are just a natural next step. I mean, it's a pretty big step. That's why everyone's fascinated. But it's, the external brain thing is not new.
I love how now. Yeah, it's all in stages that are hard to see, right? We're down in the weeds, and it's hard to see. I love how the this stuff works out today is like people used to imagine computers work. And they're like, well, you just be able to talk to it and it works, right? Or you just tell it what to do, and it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Except now today, it's like, it is how it works. Like it's become that way. You just talk to it and it does the thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's great, right? I mean, I remember from when I was a kid and people were playing like Super Mario Bros. And they held the controllers, and every time they want to jump, they like lift both the hands up in the air because it felt natural that the entire thing jumped. and it has taken a while, but we have games using that mechanic now, and people trying to talk to the computer might sound very, very crazy 10, 15, 20 years ago, but nowadays talking to your computer might not be that crazy anymore. It might be a really good thing, because why should we spend a bunch of time trying to train the human to use the computer when it's cheaper to train the computer to interact with the human?
To talk to humans. Hey, Jett, I have a specific question about the kind of AI world that you've seen and the resources that you've used. So it seems like the most simple business model, assuming that GPUs start to get wrapped up and shrink wrapped so that you're not allowed to use them without licenses or whatever. Like, how straightforward would it be? It seems very straightforward, but how straightforward would it be to just have GPU computing power available behind, a BCH paywall, basically, right? Where you have some kind of just simple service, right? Like cloud computing service, except you're doing it on a streaming or whatever kind of basis you want to do it on, but just paid in BCH. I assume that's going to be an extremely simple thing to do. Is that right? It has to be.
Yeah. The only thing that you've really got to worry about is like a small, are you streaming it? Do you want payments up front, or do you want to do payment token by token? What's the overhead for those kind of things look like? That's about it.
Because it's troubling, right? Because we do almost everything directly with BCH. Not everything, but almost everything directly with BCH. But then when it comes to cloud computing, there's just nobody. They don't touch it, right? Most of the providers don't touch it. At least not the ones that have the stuff that we need to do. And if you're looking for racks and racks of GPU, that's certainly there. We aren't used to that, but yeah, it's kind of an uncomfortable place where we absolutely have to have some kind of fiat gateway to get into the cloud computing we need, and I don't like that. Do you get a lot of your resources, or does your business, do they get the resources to crypto, or it's just all through standard?
No, it's all fiat. And I've even gone to, so there have been a couple of occasions where my my payment has been like late, and I have I've been incredibly patient with them, but there have been a couple times where it's late enough to actually break the law. And so I've been like, hey, pay up. And the excuse that I always get is our payment service is acting up, or like it just failed to send or something. Like it's always some technical excuse. So the last time that happened, I was like, well, pay me in Bitcoin Cash, then it wouldn't be an issue. And I have heard absolutely nothing from the like payroll side of the company about that. Like it's still just fiat. It's weird because the people that I work with, yeah, exactly. There actually, interestingly enough, hasn't been another delay since that. But then people that I work with on the day-to-day are supportive of it, and they know a little bit about, I mean, they know my real name, so I try to keep things distinct and separate. But they know enough to, I guess, take me seriously when I talk about it. So, my direct boss and his boss are both supportive, but it's never been like, well, how can we integrate this in the company? I have suggested it a couple times.
Yeah. You'll probably get the runaround forever until, like work from home was never a thing. Companies can do it. Just no, that's not feasible. We don't work that way. And then COVID happens. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, everybody can do it. Once something forces the hand, it's actually turns out to be all right. So I don't know what's gonna come for that with some companies to get them to be more flexible about payment. Jett, I wanted to ask you a different thing about content production. Like, did you already have any background in content production or media and so forth before you were doing a BCH podcast?
A little bit, but I don't know. Okay. So yeah, here's little oh, this is embarrassing. Here's a little backstory. I think when I was like 7 years old, my grandmother gave me my brother and I gave us a camera that took an SD card and just recorded like 480p video or something like that.
Oh
And
yeah, the potato digital stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
potato was
so
real.
back when YouTube like was a thing, like first came out, my brother and I would just record us playing video games or like watching WWE or something like that. So I've always, and like then when I got a little bit older, started doing like claymation stuff with a stepbrother, and yeah, so there's always been, and I did media studies in middle school. There's always been a little bit of interest in content production, but I've never had really the friends to make content with. So there was a brief moment, probably at the start of, oh no, maybe like grades 8 or 9 or so, where I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a YouTuber. Like I'm gonna just do vlogs and stuff. And that's obviously not the case, but I did pick up a lot of editing skills there. Like I pirated a Sony Vegas Pro 11 or 12 or something. I remember like the very first one getting Sony Vegas 8 and being like, oh, this is sick. And then learning how to do keyframing and stuff. And that's very useful to me now.
Oh yeah.
I guess that's where I got those skills from. But
I see. Okay, so you've been touching it on and off for a long time. This is like something you just randomly picked up. So, what do you see today, right? So, BCH ecosystem has come. I don't know. We still have a long way to go. We've come a long way in terms of having any kind of media presence whatsoever, like social media or otherwise. What do you see when you look out there? Like, who do you notice out there with when you think of content production, when you think of social media, just regular media, what do you see when you look out there? Of course, there's BCH podcast, which you do very well. You and Jeremy do very well. What else do you see? Who else do you see?
The only consistent ones I feel like are, and maybe I'm not paying enough attention. I do want to have that as a little like disclaimer preface. Please excuse my ignorance if that is the case. But I feel like the only consistent people are us and Bcashy. Now there's a lot of, well, hold on too. And I mean video specifically, because there's a lot of like just images that get shared around that I don't
Memery?
pay a whole lot of attention to. What's that?
What about, I was just saying, do you mean like memes, the meme factory or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Since you
I'm much
okay,
more
so you're
compelled
about,
by
like,
video
production. Yeah, there's not very much video. Yeah, is it Bcashy who makes most of the video stuff? There was also the Who Killed Bitcoin documentary made the team in Argentina, right? The two of them, I think it was the main ones who made in Argentina, and then you guys. What about the other types of video? There's do you look at like what BCH Guru does? Some of the stuff that GP puts out. We put out tweets to explain things, like little graphical explainers about things, little videos to explain stuff, like short video things to explain stuff.
Okay,
but you don't
so
keep your eye on those.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that, okay, so like I'm on Twitter maybe 3 times a week now, and it's like a quick scroll down to see if I have any. Yeah, it's not often. And so normally if I see like, if I see a video, it's like filtered through the Telegram channels and has had a lot of reactions to it already. I think BCH Guru stuff is fantastic, but it's kind of a little insular. Like it's like the only people that know about it right now are the people that are, in BCH, and they're cool. It's cool material. We might be able to get another couple people from crypto in general, but like the format that they have, I feel like is so much more suitable for normies. It's just the content isn't suitable for normies. So bridging that gap, I think, would be Like the music, I think, is what does that for them. Does that make sense?
It seems like an impossible job. Do you see
Yeah.
people breaking through those walls? Like BCH podcast, you think you guys are breaking through that wall? Like that stigma, BCH stigma is absolutely huge. Maybe it's shrinking now, or what do you think about that? Like, is it still there, and how do you break through that?
I don't think as a whole, okay, so I think the clips, like those little like 2-minute long clips where you have this kind of condensed bit of information, I feel like those are what end up getting shared around the most and seems like what impacts people the most. I think the long form content is really good for the technical people, but I think, yeah, having just short form, dense, but somehow fun and energetic content is kind of the key.
To breaking out, just getting a general audience to pick up on it. And what kind of message do you think is important to get out? What are your feelings on who to reach, what message to reach? Like, I just watched this documentary. I don't even know if it's a documentary or just a proper movie about the miracle of work. I don't know how to say it. It's in Austria before World War II, and it's a story about basically script, right? They come up with their own local script in the town. They're able to have this miraculous economic recovery because of it. And they have these moments in the onboarding moments where they're going around the shops and they're like, "Hey, you take this money," and they're like, "No, no, no." And they're like, "Oh, here, take this sign and put it up," and it says, the thing accepted here. And in the end, successful. Then the point I was making is, it was the local priest and was like who were running shops. Those were the two ways that it actually worked. And if either one of them hadn't been on board, like it would have all fallen apart and nobody would have participated in anything. So like from that kind of angle, what do you see is the right people to talk, or what have you found with the podcast and so forth, where the right people to reach and people to talk to help accomplish what you're trying to do?
Oh, this is rough because I feel like what I'm trying to do is a little bit separate from the rest of, like, I am absolutely supportive of adoption efforts, but I have been personally burnt out where I don't make the attempt anymore. Like,
I mean like local adoption, right? That's a really punishing, difficult thing that I think only works in like very, very concentrated local efforts, right? No, I mean just in general, like for the vision, right? To have as many people using missionless money as possible, so that it ends up being a viable competition and an alternative platform for running an economy and for people to turn to. They're forced into using CDCs and similar things like that. Like, just from that bigger, higher level of how do we get interested? How do we get people interested? Have you been thinking about that? Like, when you're talking about who to approach and making things energetic or using video, short content, like, is that aimed at specific people or purposes, or are you just talking general about approach to media?
Okay, there's a lot going on here. So I feel like people that are in, like, for example, I've had decent success, like messaging bands or members of bands and asking to buy certain albums or pieces of merch or something with Bitcoin Cash. And so, like, it seems like that, like, creatives are a little, just the open-mindedness, they're willing to try it out, even if it's absolutely not for them. And we have old men and nerds, and like, it's just not cool enough, guys. Like, I think we just need to get more creatives, and that'll also have a lot of baggage, right? Because creatives are messy people that can get involved in stupid spats and drama. But the place is to make it cool and make it a fun place to be and have a culture, right? I think people that are involved in just any kind of content creation at all should be the people that we're trying to get involved. Even like anywhere from the long form podcasts to like TikTok influencers.
So on that note, so you mentioned earlier that finding talent to be able to give you like assets that you can work with while you're doing content production has been problematic. I'm looking at many problems in life as if the friction gets low enough and the value stays the same, people eventually start doing it. And so I'm wondering, like, are there any like missing tooling or resources that the Bitcoin Cash as a community should have available to encourage and make it easier for content producer to start getting into the space?
I wish I had a real answer for you, but I feel like I have the same question. Because like when I ask to hire people, right, and they say no because they don't already have a wallet or something, okay, here's 4 apps you can download. Like it takes 30 seconds, but that's too much friction. So I don't know. If we could just somehow like give a wallet to people, that would be great. But
how about
this goes to
how about something like Bitcoin.com's? I don't. Oh shit! I don't even remember the name. You guys all know how it works. You
send a link.
Yeah, you send a link. So you send the coins to, well, or you send an IOU of the coins to them, and they might not have that much motivation before because they haven't really, quote unquote, received the coins yet. But once they got the coins down, now they have the motivation to actually go get it, right? That could be one way. Apparently, some people have had success with it. So.
Yeah. Up until about a year ago, I wasn't even able to use that feature because it did not work on Lineage. I made a couple bug reports and was in like DMs with people trying to figure it out. And as far as I know, it's still broken on Lineage.
So,
but I've got a
AKA someone else should do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, like we just talked about it on the podcast, there is some priority to get shareable links into Selene. So if they can do that in a way that works, like that actually works cross-platform. And I think the issue is just the dependency on Google services there. So if Selene can somehow do it without needing to deal with, overlords, then that'll be perfect. Or at least I'll make the attempt.
Yeah, when I asked I can't remember who it was. I asked what was their favorite app and why is it BCH Bull or something stupid like that. They're like, no. Oh yeah, it was Josh Althorpe. He was like, no. My favorite app is, I'm sorry, but my favorite app by far is the shareable link, because it's just so easy. Just send the QR code to somebody, and they scan it, and it automatically loads up the app. They open up the app. As soon as they open up the app, it picks up the money. So yeah, it's a good one. I wish Bitcoin.com were still doing stuff like that, right? Like those things a long way. And you don't know which one is going to be a hit and which one's going to be a flop. You just got to find out what works.
I am curious about the security of it, like, because I remember they used to do streams and they would give out
just throw up QR codes on the screen.
Yeah, but I feel like there were a couple times where if it was the shareable link, like maybe I'm just underestimating how fast people can actually be when they have a kind of a monetary incentive. But it seems like some of those claims would go within like less than a second.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's absolutely any of those streams where people know there's going to be money going on. There's literally just people waiting. They'll start pinging you in the stream like, when are you going to do the money thing? Yeah, if it's announced, there absolutely are going to be people waiting for it.
So if it was
What about
like
the? Oh, go ahead, sorry.
if the like uniqueness was just like 8 characters at the end of a URL, right? Then you could pre-generate all of those URLs and then just wait to see if they have content.
Well, seeing if they have content is the cost, right? Because the URL itself, you have to connect with the server and ask it about information. And if the server has rate limits on, which is a sensible thing, then you can only check so many per some amount of time.
Yeah, okay.
So you don't have a lot of time. You've been spending a lot of time with work, not so much on Twitter, which is a very intelligent thing to do. I should follow that. And shit posting and shit stirring and wasting my time on things. But do you attention to any of the drama going on these days? Are you like Buddha? You're just above it at this point.
I would like to say that I'm above it, but I am not. I will, if something extra spicy is happening, I'll peek in and like when all the leaked emails from BSV was coming out, I was so excited about that. I was on top of it. It was like it made my weekend, man. Like I was like, I can't believe people are talking to these people. Like in the group, like it was wild. It just seemed like a very very unhappy family gathering, and it gave me a giggle.
Giggle at the extreme uncomfort in the room. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's kind of like that with some BC stuff these days. So yeah, okay. You been using any of the stuff out there, or are you really just like spending all your day on work, like the BCH Guru, any of the stuff, BCH Bull? Have you done any of the stuff with the Paytaka or Zapit? Like Zapit has the PP escrows and exchanges. Paytaka has something similar. I don't know. Are you using any of these apps that are out there these days already?
Yeah. So I haven't tried out Cauldron yet, but
Yeah, Cauldron, of course. Should have mentioned Cauldron.
Yeah, I do try to like try everything out at least once. I don't think I will be doing anything with like the CRC side of cash tokens, to be completely honest. That seems like an absolute shit show. But yeah, I'm actually, so with BCH Bull, I don't know why I do this. I will have like kind of like weeks where I'm making a bunch of contracts. And then I just won't touch it for a month at a time.
You're like using it for speculation or like for savings type thing, or?
Well, even savings, like it's all speculation in me.
Yeah.
It's kind of just
are
like
you paying your bills with the amount, because it's how some people use it, right? You have certain expenses and you just fix the expenses. You don't have to worry about it. That's what I meant. So everything is speculation and everything.
3 years ago, no, 4, maybe even longer than that now, but I think it was like 4 years ago, I used to be able to essentially pay all of my bills off in Bitcoin Cash. And if I was still able to do that, I would absolutely be using BCH Bull in that way. But unfortunately, I think now it's like they have a minimum bill requirement, and anything past the minimum you have to KYC for, so it's de facto KYC anyway. And I'm not playing that game.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like it's closing? Do you feel like the walls are getting tighter? Like the noose is getting tighter, or not?
I think it is, but I also think that's a good thing.
Without being surveilled.
I think it is getting tighter, but I think that's a good thing, because I think like everyone's complacent with the current state of affairs, and I'm hoping that it's not a boiling frog situation where people just slowly get more and more complacent. Especially with the COVID stuff, I feel like a lot of people were just like, this is too much. Like regular ass people were just super pissed off. So there's a little bit of, I think, hope that I have, but I also know, like, as pissed off as people were, we just kind of tolerated a lot of things. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think the
when it comes to
necessity
people's
will
money,
push people.
hopefully it'll be different when it comes to money. Like, it's not too hard to find people be really pissed at a bank when the bank basically treats you like a criminal, right? Like, oh, well, you've been banking here for 20 years, but none of that matters. You got to fill out this form. You got to tell us, everything about your ex-girlfriend who sent you a bank transfer in 2020, or whatever, like, investigation they want to do, and you're just like, are you serious? You treating me like a criminal? What is this? But I mean,
I
that's
see
what it
that.
is. If you want to surveil everything,
Yeah,
you
so
end up needing to do that.
on that, it's actually dangerous for them to do that, because being a criminal comes with some cost, right? You get some exclusion from society, people look down on you or whatnot. There are costs to being a criminal. But there are also upsides, right? There's a reason why people choose to be criminals. And so if you're forcing people to pay the cost, you're removing the obstacle to becoming criminals. So they're effectively making it, like, more likely for people to start behaving in ways they don't really want to. So yeah, it's kind of scary.
But I think
Yeah,
that'll be
good point.
important. Like, people won't feel like the mindset for them will be, but I didn't do anything wrong. And that's where resentment kicks in, and that's where we might actually be able to see some change.
Yeah, people just need to get really angry first, right?
Unfortunately. I think so.
Unfortunately, yeah, unfortunately. Not until it really slaps you in the face. It's not bumping into the wall is not enough, apparently. For some of us, it is. You bump into the wall and you're like, wait a minute. Why do you need to know this information? I don't think you need to know this. That's not really reasonable. But not everybody's like that. I mean, really got to get slapped before they sit up and say, no, this isn't right.
I see there's a lot of accounts getting flagged now too for like just like transactions of a couple $1,000s. And I know that they decreased the like threshold a while ago to like $10,000, but it seems like even a third of that now is something that could potentially flag your account. So there are regular ass people that I've seen on Twitter, like soccer moms, being like, "What's going on?" tagging their bank and being super irritated, and especially around the holiday season, people just wanting to get stuff for their family. I'm curious and this I think is specific to the US, so I don't know what is going on there at all, but certainly interesting.
Well, the US is, I think it's especially unique, right? Because it's all of this is an implementation of FATF, which is global, worldwide thing, right? Like, everybody's involved in it. Pretty much every country except like North Korea and 2 countries are involved in that whole setup. So I think it's pretty across the board as far as you should be doing this. And maybe just, I don't know, American banks just do it more. I don't know why. Maybe they have more legal repercussions for whatever, or more penalties. I don't know. Because I've heard banks also hate it. Not talking about, the highest level banks, but everything up to the highest level. From what I've read, they also hate it, right? Because they have to treat their customers like criminals. They know that their customers don't like it, but they're forced to do it. So yeah, they're being treated as an enforcement arm for tax agencies, basically, right? Because that's really what it's about. Like,
Yeah, and
I think that's when the GPU.
Yeah.
It's gonna wrap them up soon.
Yeah, and the net result of that is that a lot of the banks and other services are just slowly dropping people from more heavy-handed jurisdictions like the U.S. And yeah.
Oh, and yeah, let me tell you about that. I'm fucking terrified to ever interact with a bank or whatever, because every time I do, it's like an opportunity for them to be like, oh, you're in a situation? Oh, hey, we're going to cancel all your accounts. Oh, man. I'm always eggshells with bank accounts and stuff like that, and money services. All right, Jett. We've kept you into your 3.5 hour of social media. So thank you so much for joining us. I think we're at a pretty good place to wrap up. We're trying to keep it to an hour these days. Is there anything you wanted to cover or bring up, or a shout out, or anything you wanted to do before we wrap up?
I think the only honestly, everything. I think if anyone has any questions or wants any tips or help with anything, I'm available to just message me on Telegram. Probably the easiest thing.
We can do that, and I will be asking you about that video. I would love to see that demo. But
Absolutely.
I expected when Jonathan asked you about it, I expected you to be like, "Nah, that's silly, you silly pleb. It's not how things work." And you're like, "Oh, yeah, I did that." So yeah, I really do want to see that. All right. Well, Jonathan, your name was anything you need to talk about? Anything you guys want to bring up before we go?
So I have one thing I want to say before we stop, in case someone here is listening or looking to plan the how they're gonna celebrate the next BCH upgrade for the dynamic block size. And so my message to them is don't lock yourself up and schedule everything yet. There's an event coming sometime early January that you might want to take into consideration. So keep your calendars open.
Being announced in January, not happening in January. Right?
Yes, it'll be announced in January. It'll happen on the upgrade.
Right. Awesome. Looking forward to it. All right. Name?
No, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jett. Thanks for your time. Hope you can get some rest, and hope you enjoy your work.
I got Christmas dinners to go to,
and you
so.
get paid. Yeah, I don't think you got a chance to eat. Take care, man.
Still eating
Good to
some
talk
toast
to
right
you.
now.
All right. Have a good one. Take care, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye, man.
Bye.
See you.